Hello everyone. What we're doing today is I'm just going to be on my way now to go to one of our outreach events we do. We're going to be working at Tampines, working in one of the community centres with the elderly care centre there. Before I do, I just want to make this short video explaining a bit about how and why we get subluxations, what some of those causes are, and what are commonly known as the 3 T's. So there are 3 big things that are really going to be causing some level of subluxation, or what's known as a misalignment of the bones. So essentially that would be where instead of things being lined up like this, we start to have some level of misalignment that starts to put pressure on the nerves. It occludes those spaces and then eventually will start to interfere with the way the nerves are working. That would be subluxation. So we talk about it in terms of what we call the 3 T's. And there's 2 that are kind of more or less physical, and there's one that's more physical in itself. So number 1 would be traumas. So traumas include things like your accidents, your falls, any kind of slips or injuries you may have had, as well as some of the other physical things you do, which would be a more progressive trauma. So this would be things like, say, if you've had bad posture, if you have a certain position you have when you're sitting for work, even repetitive injuries that you're doing, all of those things, sleeping positions, all those things, they can all build up over time and they become the physical side of the traumas. So they would usually be kind of the first cause or the first indicator of something happening and misaligning those bones. And then over time, that will be particularly exacerbated and can even potentially be caused as well by the other 2 T's. And this would be toxins, and this would be thoughts. So when we say toxins, this includes things like, say, the foods you're eating, or maybe the good foods you're not eating enough of, not getting enough water. Maybe if you're having other things, like say if you're on certain medications which may have side effects, or maybe if you're having certain foods which aren't as healthy, or maybe just too much of certain things, whether it's maybe too much coffee, too much alcohol, some of the things which may be more a toxic effect in your body, as well as if you have any kind of other inflammation states going on due to any other conditions or anything else you may not be regulating quite as well, even including some old injuries that may be going on in the body. So that will be the side of toxins. Essentially, it's like a chemical effect in the body, and that will then just slow down the healing process, meaning that if there is some level of misalignment, it's harder for your body to try and fix it itself because it's already tied up doing all these other things. They're trying to fix all these other things in the background, whether it's to do with digestion or to do with inflammation or to do with the toxic effect that it's trying to counteract as much as possible. And that's reason number 2. So of course we have number 1, this physical part, which would be traumas. Number 2, as a less physical part, more of a potential exacerbator, which would be toxins. And then number 3 would be thoughts. And essentially this is where we talk about the idea of thoughts becoming things, and how our mindset and how our thoughts are actually going to be affecting us. This is not something which is just a bit of pseudoscience or hocus pocus. It's something where the science has been laid down for many, many years. And we can really see how a chemical change, when there's going to be some sort of thought, will happen in the brain, and that will then start to simulate throughout the rest of the body. And we have other videos explaining more into this, especially our ones on stress. But that will really start to affect what's happening in the adrenal glands. That starts to affect the muscles. And if those muscles are out of balance, or if they're tensing the wrong ones, then that can then lead to or exacerbate more of that misalignment. Because especially as well, an easy way I always think of it is like efficiency. If your brain is so busy dealing with and thinking about some sort of problem, whether it's to do with stress, whether it's to do with work, whether it's to do with family, you're not perfect. So it means that the brain is then not able to do some of the other things it has to do in the background, such as keeping you healthy. Whether that's maintaining where those muscles should be for posture, which maintain the position of the bones, or even doing some of the other things in the background, like maintaining parts of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, or even just regulating immunity or some of the other bodily functions which we don't actively control. It's one of the common reasons why people, say, who have high stress end up with things like, say, ulcers, because the stomach is not being regulated properly by the nervous system, or they end up with very tight muscles, because their body is constantly in this fight-flight state, and it's constantly telling them to protect themselves, even though there's no immediate physical danger in front of them. So in terms of really the causes of this, kind of to summarize, would be the 3 big T's. So it would be traumas, all the physical aspects, whether it's progressive or instant, so the difference between, say, posture or some sort of accident. Then number 2, we're going to be talking about toxins. This would be chemical effects in the body, either inflammation states or from the things that we are or are not consuming enough of. And number 3 would be thoughts. So the way that we're really treating our mentality and even how our emotional and stress state can start to affect what's happening in the body. If you have any questions, of course you can leave them in the comments, or you can send us a message at 8438-9550 or email help@vitalitychiropracticcentres.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.